And I could see the benefits of hemp in products like what Bob's got here, a finished product that's permanently storing the carbon.
Our next conversation is with Winton Evers, positioning the hemp industry for strategic growth. So this would be an interesting one. Winton's got a background in it does know somewhat about how the hemp industry works, and we're interested to hear about his hemp data platform possibly, and various other aspects of how to get industrial hemp into the ESG possibly, or the equivalent of what the new buzzword is. So we'll look forward to that. Thank you, Winton. Winton. My apologies.
All right. I'm used to it. Boy named Sue, let me tell you.
You happy with it behind you, or do you want to...
I'm going to shake off the nerves. Thank you very much, Richard, for the introduction. Today I want to talk about a project I'm working on called the Hemp Platform and how it can help position the hemp market to develop. The idea of it is to be a digital platform that catches data from the growing of hemp right through to the end product use. So we've got all the information collated in one place. My business is I mostly deal with larger corporates and in developing their carbon inventories, emissions reduction, and carbon offsets at the end of it. And the beauty about my company EcoProfit is it means if you're doing something to reduce your emissions, you're invariably helping the ecology, but you're also improving your profitability because you're reducing your overheads or you're generating more revenue streams. So that's been very successful, and it makes it easier to transition. But within that also, being formerly a chartered accountant in the old days, is to align carbon accounting with financial accounting and management accounting for that matter too. So my key message to people, to companies, is we need to quantify our impacts, starting with carbon and then progressing to ESG things when we have the factors that we can apply reasonably accurately. But if I stay with carbon, the key message here is to get accuracy. So you start on a sort of data dump, and then over time you develop that accuracy so that you're getting real information on what's happening. So this whole hemp platform is based on that. And also I am the lead facilitator for Carbon Training International, and I've written a lot of courses. So I educate people from all around the world in carbon and carbon management. And the thing is that what I want to do is show companies how they can meet, and I also just wrote a whole course for Carbon Training International on the new compliance rules. We Australia have compulsory ones now, and they mean that companies have to include their carbon emissions, certain larger companies, but it's catching smaller ones as well. And what it means is you have to calculate your Scope 1, Scope 2 and Scope 3 emissions. And this is a nasty little critter. Scope 3 emissions are all the emissions in your supply chain, and all the emissions, not all the emissions, but a lot of the emissions in the downstream to your customers. And what you're meant to include, or what you have to include, is Category 1 Scope 3 emissions, is all the embodied emissions in the purchased goods and services you buy from the paddock. So what that means is, this is why Coles and Woolworths are running around to the farmers at the minute, because they know they've got a drama. They need the farmers to get their emissions down to cover their butts in their carbon inventory. And also align, make it easy for auditors. So now the environmental reporting now as part of your annual accounts, balance sheet, profit and loss. So I make it easy for auditors. I used to be an accountant, so they want to auditors like to reconcile one list to another list to another list. Let's make it happen. And so this is all part of my aligning carbon accounting to financial accounting and make it mainstream and start to quantify your impact. How I got into the industry, I absolutely agree with the criticism of carbon offsets. There is so much BS out there, and I could see the benefits of hemp. It's such a great product. You make cars out, make buildings out, make paper out of it. It's just unbelievable. It used to be a huge industry until some meathead situation back in the 30s. So what I wanted to create an offset and said, how do I do that? And for every carbon offset project, you need a methodology. And I looked around, there's no methodologies. So I went to a crowd called Vera. They're a big carbon standard. And I said, oh, paid all this money. Can I develop this methodology so that we can create these carbon offsets? And it will be from the carbon that's captured by photosynthesis, CO2, rip off the O2, spit it out, hold the carbon air, follow the biomass through, and some of it will end up in products like what Bob's got here, or hemp inside and coal. Or in our friend Davis, who's come all the way from Colorado to be here. These invaluable products, and leaving out things like that which aren't permanent. So when we remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, if we want carbon offsets, we want to make sure it's permanently stored. It's not go back in the atmosphere again. So I wanted to figure out a way that I could do that, and the only way to do that is accuracy, is data and accuracy. We calculate the total amount of carbon dioxide removed because we know how much biomass there is. From there, we can then calculate the emissions at each farmer. Doesn't matter what the circumstance, emissions of seeding, emissions of harvesting, the type of fertiliser they used, all of those things be taken up and carried forward to then transport, and to Clara's point, transport. If it's coming from overseas, it's out of the equation. We've got to work from home. And then you go to the processor, and so as I went along, it came up about leakage. We were said, mate, how do we know that you build a building out of hempcrete, and then the building falls down, all the carbon goes back in the atmosphere again? Oh, there's a building in Japan, about 3 centuries ago, we built it, and I put all this stuff up, and they turned around and they said, all right, we'll agree with you. But we've got another problem. How do we know, out of the biomass that's not going in the home, that it didn't go to a landfill and turn into methane? And if it does that, methane's 28 times better at being a greenhouse gas. So you're 1 step forward and 28 steps back. And they said to me, is there a market? And I went, wow. And then I started talking to people in the industry, Bob and Clara and many people, Tim, and many people that helped me so much, and identified the industry problems. So now I'm starting to think, this is not just about carbon, this is about developing the industry, getting it together, to collaborate. What's the problems with the industry? The problem is there's no marketplace to joint buyer and seller where you can stipulate what your specs are, just what Clara and Bob were talking about, the end product. It needs to be stipulated all the way through. We need specifications at each part in the process through the value chain. We need a marketplace where buyer and seller, so the farmer Bob says, I'm going to grow 100 tonnes, 480 tonnes, whatever, and I'm going to, I'm ready and I want $500 a tonne. The processor then says, I'll buy it, mate, I'll give you $450, but I want it redded 5 to 10 days. I want no more than 9% moisture, So now, and then also now Bob's got a buyer. So it's all about, and going all the way through the value chain is you do that. Every single person, Australian Hemp Masonry, they will put in orders to processors. This is the specs that we want. So if you deliver anything outside the specs, I'm sorry, it's going to go back. If you deliver to spec, you get 20% up front, 50% later, whatever the terms are, but you're going to get paid. So it was develop a market, get this specifications going, and traceability to tie in with everything I'm doing in carbon with all companies. You have to follow the power of the computer. You've got to follow the whole train. You've got to understand We need to quantify stuff. And this is what this is all about. So this not only can be used for hemp, this can be used in any industry. It's just, it can actually got an opportunity to be at the front of things. And of course, the other issues that came up were the regulators. And they're being bombarded, it's slow, it's inefficient. So I'm thinking probably the most valuable thing for them would be something like this, where you know every single person, Farmer Bob grew the hemp, and it's da-da-da-da-da, and the herd, all BS1 barcoding, is now in 9 Preston Street, Melbourne. You know, so it's completely, you flip it, and they can see, if you want to audit it, guys, here's the audit trail. You can find it anywhere you like. That was to make that efficient. So here's just an example here, growing the hemp here. We calculate there, this is just an example, the CO2 removed, then the emissions associated with that. So we've got a net carried forward total. I can tell you, by the way, very roughly, if I follow this all the way through to here, it's about net, approximately net 1 kilogram. So let's say 1 in tonnes, 1 tonne of CO2, 1 tonne of CO2 net is left per tonne of biomass, or per tonne of end product. So that's sort of how it works out. So if you're a farmer, and you get 12 tonnes a hectare, and you get, you know, 70% of it into a finished product that's permanently storing the carbon, you're going to get about 8 offsets per hectare, per crop. So we go across biomass, take the transport off. Boy, we don't want too much of that. This is where another thing we want to talk about is these hubs, creating, and to your point there, Mark, about ESG. There is a way to quantify ESG, water use, social credits we're looking at now, where you're employing people like in regional centres. This is all part of it as well, where we can be independent in certain areas. You get to the processor. The processor now, so I'll go back a step. So after it was all in my head, I go, you know what? Let's make the hemp platform in 3 stages. Stage 1 is develop the marketplace, where specifications are stipulated all the way through. It doesn't matter which junction you are at, whoever's dealing with who, they will have certain specifications that need to be met. So now people understand what they've got to supply, and if they can supply it. And then the second part is going to this process of gathering the data, gathering it all together as we go along, so we're starting to have accuracy, not only in carbon, but starting to understand like biomass, some of the issues, even in knowledge with the universities. It was mentioned before, universities coming together with their knowledge. So in this platform, you need education. That's in there. You have everything to do, seeding, everything to do with the whole industry in one place, which is now bring to the next point. Am I running out of time? 2 minutes. And thank you to all these supporters for all the help and knowledge and everything they've done to sort of help get this thing rocking and rolling. It's so, I can't go through everyone at the moment, but I really acknowledge what they're doing. The unis there, look, here's La Trobe. I didn't know anything about La Trobe. Putting all these unis, University of Melbourne, all working together, getting our knowledge together and getting really sophisticated, brings a sophistication to the industry. Very quickly in carbon offsets, I love it about hemp because there's no reversibility. When you're talking about soil, the soil can reverse. Yes, Simon?
Can you go back one?
Oh, you want to look at your logo?
Yeah.
Jeez, I'll tell you what, mate. So, in terms of carbon offsets, the quality here is of development. If you're going back to that other slide before, I don't want to make offsets out of, soil carbon credits, they can do that through the ACCU scheme. And that's another whole question. I'm only interested in what you can see and what you can touch. That's all I'm interested in. I don't want to claim offsets for less emissions from the line binder, if you compare it to concrete, just argument's sake. I don't want to calculate any offsets for all the insulation benefits downstream. No, it's just what you see, what you touch. There's carbon dioxide, less emissions, bang. So it's rock solid. It's not this, and there's no carbon maintenance obligation on your property. It's crop for crop. Whatever's delivered, that's it. And of course, so the reversibility's limited. You might have an earthquake and a building fall down, but we just saw with David, with burning, you know, it's a fantastic product for fires. And what else have I got in there? Blockchain, blah, blah, blah. Just to finish off, the investment proposal is, I want to figure out a way how the industry can be involved. This is where we need the Marks of this world. The industry's involved. So if people do put their hand in their pocket, they'll get more because they're taking a risk. But where the industry can come together, collaborate, and there's a number of different ways to do that, but that's the next step in the journey.